And hello and welcome to another edition of DSU Inside Perspective. I'm Carlos Holmes, and this is the show where we talk to faculty, staff, students, and guests about current events and things that are going on here at the great Delaware State University. For this edition, we're going to step outside, far outside the confines of Delaware State University, and talk about something that's been on everybody's mind for the last 3 weeks. What happened to Malaysian Airline Flight 370? Today I have Hans Riegel. Hans, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Nice
Hans
to see you, Carlos.
is an assistant professor of aviation here in our aviation program here at Delaware State University. He is also a certified pilot on Boeing 777s.
Correct.
And that is the plane that is the subject of all our curiosity right now. Hans, I have to ask you, I was listening to some commentators today, and they said, man, this thing's been going on for 3 weeks, but we got stuff happening in Ukraine, we got stuff happening in Syria, people still got to get signed up for their health insurance here in the country. Mm-hmm. Why is there so much fascination over this disappearance of Flight 370?
Well, just in today's, modern day travel, airplanes are so important. It's just so unusual for such a large aircraft to just disappear. We were just talking about it in class earlier this week that over 85% of the adult U.S. population has flown in aircraft, commercial airliners. So for a plane to just disappear into the blue is really got everyone's curiosity up.
Well, now we've been talking a lot of different scenarios. People have, the talking heads have talked about their perspectives in terms of what could have happened. Was it a hijacking? Did the pilot just commandeer the airplane and take it in another direction for Lord knows what reason?
Right.
Was there some calamity, some explosion? What happened there? You are an expert in aviation, as far as we're concerned here at Delaware State University. What is your perspective on what you think happened?
Well, it would all be speculation. There's a lot of theories out there. I will say that having flown this aircraft for about a year, a major U.S. airline, that it's a super reliable airplane. The 777 was the best jet aircraft that I've ever flown. I've flown on numerous Boeings, numerous Airbus, military aircraft, helicopters, you name it. The Boeing 777 was the most reliable, most rock-solid aircraft that I've had the privilege to fly. So just off the top, and this is my own speculation, I do not think it was a mechanical problem. There's a chance, perhaps, that something in the cargo could have caught fire or somehow the crew was incapacitated, but that's probably a remote chance. There have been a few instances as of late of ion batteries having problems, a lot of storage capacity. They have had problems on airplanes before. It wouldn't be the first time. And this plane was carrying a large load of ion batteries.
But now, wait a minute. The reports that we got from the satellite signals that
Right.
we got from the plane was that it was headed towards the east, and then all of a sudden it departed from its flight plan and it headed back towards, I guess, the west or the northwest. Or north, I'm not sure, but it
Yes.
turned around
Yes.
some way, shape, or form. There has to be a reason for that, right?
Yes, and that's the very disconcerting part. So barring, the airplane catching on fire or, a mechanical problem, the human factor, and I am leaning towards a human factor caused this mishap. I don't know what capacity. I don't know if it was the captain or the co-pilot. They're the first ones certainly getting accused in all this, but they probably wouldn't be my first choice. There seems to have been nothing unusual in their backgrounds, no security issues. Pilots are a pretty homogeneous group, as it were. Maybe, just maybe, for some reason, somebody caused them to turn, or perhaps somebody else took control of the aircraft and caused that turn. That is unusual, and I would want to know, did that pilot report his last normal position before or after that turn? And then also I would look at where the debris was found based on the amount of fuel that aircraft was carrying. So did it, turn on a flight path on autopilot, or somebody was flying it and then it flew until the plane ran out of gas?
Well, let me ask this question, because I've heard about this autopilot thing. They have some type of anti-hijacking autopilot system that's out there now. If such a system, an autopilot anti-hijacking system, and it probably has a different technical name, but for the lack of a better term,
Sure.
if that was activated, somebody outside the airplane would know that was activated, wouldn't it?
Yes, and the autopilot, I haven't been in the cockpit of a 777 since about 2008. At that time, there was no system like that in place. However, it would be easy to learn. I mean, any flight sim, you could learn how to fly a 777 autopilot, and the aircraft has the ability even to land itself. And that was discussed as part of security issues after 9/11, the 9/11 attacks. The government was looking into ways which would totally be feasible of controlling aircraft from the ground. In the event, it could be pilot incapacitation, that control was necessary. So to the best of my knowledge, that plane did not have a system like that in place, but someone with ill intent could learn how to fly that aircraft using the autopilot alone.
Right. Now let me ask this question. At some point in time, it was reported that the plane, in a very unusual way, went up in altitude, 45,000 feet, I understand, which is not the place a plane should be.
No.
What is the impact for the passengers of a plane if a plane goes up that high?
Well, the triple can go higher than most Airbus aircraft. It could, of course it's pressurized, and the cabin is held at below 10,000 feet, because at above 10,000, that's where people start to have the effects of lack of oxygen pressure. If it was depressurized at that altitude, that would certainly be fatal for the passengers. And there is a crew oxygen system, so someone could hypothetically be on oxygen in the cockpit, depressurize the aircraft, and basically, get rid of anyone in the back.
There's been a lot of criticism of the Malaysian airline folks, justified or not, in their handling of this.
It's justified, and the reason I say that is this kind of event that happens in an airline, we're not talking about a small business owner, where something bad happens. This is a major company who has invested hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars into their aircraft. How to deal with survivors and when there's a mishap is an important part of any organization's training involved in aviation, because safety is paramount. Safety is number one. We just experienced the Asiana incident in San Francisco, which was the last major airline incident in the United States. By all accounts, from what I've heard, that was totally mishandled incorrectly. The FAA has rules in regards to the way airlines have to respond to crises and incidents, and I would say they handled that. They get an F for the way they handled that.
We've got a couple minutes left here. I want to ask you, because now, and I should tell our audience that you'll see this as early as a few days after we've taped it. This particular day is March 28th, and today is a day that they have announced that they have found some debris off of Australia, maybe about 500, 600 miles northeast of Australia, and they're sending boats right now to see if what they're seeing out there came from Flight 370. But at this point, we know just about as much as we've known the last couple weeks in terms of why this happened. But we do know we've kind of shifted from a search and rescue to a search and recovery.
That's correct, Carlos. And, like to emphasize, they still haven't physically put their hands on a piece of debris that says Malaysian Airlines.
Right.
So, a few days ago, the search debris, the debris they found was about 500 miles west of where they found it now, And even if they find and identify the debris, now with all the time that's passed since the accident happened, with the currents and the flow, big pieces of the airline may be hundreds of miles away from where the debris is found. And you know, that's going to be a problem. We have sent, the U.S. Navy has some devices, submersibles, that can detect the pinging, the signal of the black boxes, which are in fact orange, and those are en route.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the black boxes, because we're going to split this up into two parts. So we're going to come back for a part 2, because there's just so much to talk about with respect to this Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. So join us for the next edition of DSU Inside Perspective. Hans, thanks a lot.
My
and we're
pleasure.
Get you back
nice
to part
to see
2.
you, Carlos.
Don't go anywhere.
Okay.